We're in Capernaum, and Capernaum in English it's one word. In Hebrew it's two words. For Nahum. For means a village or a town. Nahum is a name of a person or a prophet. We don't know who was Nahum. So the town of Nahum, for Nahum. And of course we said after Nazareth, when Jesus was in the synagogue and the people of Nazareth rejected Jesus, Jesus disappeared. Where did he go? He came to Capernaum, to all of these cities, Jewish cities around, but he stayed at Simon Peter's house for 3 years until he was crucified, not here in Jerusalem. So we're in Capernaum, and this is the house of Simon Peter. Not the entire building, but can you see the circle inside? This is part of the house of Simon Peter. How certain are we that this was the house of Simon Peter? First of all, who's Simon Peter? Who's Simon Peter? Standing in front of you. No, Simon Peter. Simon Peter was one of the apostles. He was one of the disciples, and he's very important in the Bible, an important figure. So all of the towns, all of the people that lived here identified the place where Peter lived, not because of Peter only, but Jesus stayed in his house here in Capernaum for about 3 years. Do you get that? Now Jesus went out of a synagogue in Capernaum, reached Peter's house, saw his mother sick with a fever, hold her hands, healed her. That day they brought Jesus many sick people, and Jesus healed. Now, the house of Simon Peter is the inner circle. Then the people, the first Christians, used to come here to pray in his house, but secretly, because this was illegal. So they needed a bigger room. And that's why you can see an octagonal shaped building. And then you have a bigger, much bigger building, which is this one. And this was a Byzantine church that was built here after 325 years, in the 5th century. Now, why octagonal shape? Most of the Byzantine churches were built in octagonal shape. Why octagonal? Any idea? Octagonal. When Queen Helen came to the Holy Land, she told the artist and architect to build churches that would look like a fish. What was the first Christian symbol? A fish that looks like a fish. It's even hard to build it today, a building that looks like a fish. But fish in Greek is echtos. And echtos, you take the letter of each letter, you take each letter. Please come forward.
Thank you. Now I feel like Abraham.
Please come closer to me. So echtos.
How many times? Joe.
Theos oios sotias. That's in Greek, which means Jesus Christ, the Son of God, are the Savior. That's why the first Christian symbol was a fish. So, do you know the numeric letter if you give a number for each letter? And so if you give a number for each letter in Greek, you'll give for echtos, and you'll add the numbers, you'll have 888. So they said 8 will be the symbol we will build in an octagonal shape. 8 means echtos, which means Jesus Christ, the Son of the living God, the Savior. Jesus Christus, Theos Oios Soter. Did you all get it? Now, the Byzantine church here was destroyed by who? Persians in 614 AD. And this modern church was built by the Franciscan fathers in 1992 without destroying the ruins of the earlier churches. You can see the house of Simon Peter from here, and you can see it also from the church. There is the floor, there's a glass, you can see it from the church. But this was built, the modern one was built in 1992. And important here, what happened in 1992, everyone?
They built the church.
They built the church.
The church, yeah.
What happened in 1992? Very important here.
Some of us weren't born yet.
Doctor, you don't know?
Don't know.
I was born.
I was gonna say,
All right. In Cana. But this is first century stone jar. This is the best example of first century stone jars. Alright? Please come this way. right, all of these stones were found in this synagogue. Can you see that synagogue? By the way, this synagogue was built in the 4th century AD, not time of Jesus, but built over another synagogue, earlier synagogue, 1st century synagogue. So, but if you look at this synagogue, white color stone, limestone, it should be
Basalt.
what? Basalt, volcanic rock. What does it mean? It's white limestone. The synagogue was built with the limestone. Why? What does this tell us?
Special.
That the people, no, not only this, but the people, where do we find limestone? Up on the mountains. Not on Mount Hermon, but you have Nazareth is up on the mountains, which is closer to this area than Mount Hermon. And Mount Hermon, so you have white stone in Nazareth on the mountains. So the people here, and we're talking about the 4th century AD, were or could afford, were wealthy enough to bring these huge stones from the mountains all the way to Capernaum. So they were wealthy enough, they were rich. Of course, it's not too far, it's about 1 hour driving, but still you need, at that time, you need a lot of laborers, a lot of power, it cost a lot. So the people here were wealthy enough, rich, to bring these stones from a distance and build this synagogue. Now, yesterday we've seen a 4th century synagogue in Chorazin, and we've seen 1st century synagogue in Magdala. Now let me ask you a question. What is the difference between a Jewish temple and a Jewish synagogue? Well, well, we said that the Romans came to the Holy Land in 63 BC by Pompey, and 66 AD the Jews revolted against the Romans in Jerusalem. 70 AD the temple in Jerusalem was destroyed. May I remind you that Jesus prophesied in the Gospel of Luke and said, when he looked at the temple, he looked at the city of Jerusalem and said, not even one stone will remain on another. This happened in 33 AD, around 30 AD, 33 AD. About 35 years later, the Jews revolted and the Romans had destroyed the city of Jerusalem completely, and not even one stone remained on another. So synagogues, and the Jews used to go, before that, the Jews used to go to the temple at least 3 times a year during the 3 feasts, Passover, Tabernacle. So they used to go to the temple, but after the temple was destroyed, synagogues became the substitute to the temple. They became the alternative to the temple. Jews started to pray in synagogues. But we said this is after 70 AD, and Jesus was crucified before 70 AD, and we said we had 1st century synagogue here. Jesus went out of a synagogue when he healed Peter's mother-in-law, right? And we said that Jesus was in a synagogue in Nazareth. So synagogues before 70 AD were only for reading, studying religious matters. It's like a religious school. they didn't pray inside the synagogue. Jews used to sacrifice in the temple in Jerusalem, but synagogues, by the way, when the 586 BC, the temple in Jerusalem was destroyed by the Babylonians, and they were forced to move out of the country. And in Babylon, the Jews started to gather in places, and then they built a building and they called it a gathering place, which means a synagogue. You get that, everyone? So we have synagogues. All synagogues after 70 AD, the Jews, after 70 AD, the Jews used to go to the synagogue to pray. Before 70 AD, synagogues were a study hall or a place where they study the Bible, read the Bible, but they didn't pray inside the synagogues before 70 AD. We mentioned yesterday that 3 cities were cursed by Jesus Christ. Matthew 11, Chorazin, woe to you Chorazin, woe to you Bethsaida, and you Capernaum. What do we have in Capernaum? Only ruins. And may I remind you that Capernaum, it is mentioned in the Bible that Capernaum lies on the Via Maris, the way by the sea, the main international road that connected Mesopotamia to Egypt. Cities 2,000 years ago on the Via Maris became big cities nowadays. When you read the Bible, you'll see that Capernaum lies on the Via Maris. You'll think, and Via Maris means the way by the sea. You think the sea is the Sea of Galilee. It has nothing to do with the Sea of Galilee. It has to do with the Mediterranean Sea, because it goes up from Egypt alongside the Mediterranean Sea, and then it goes from here to Damascus. It has nothing to do with the Mediterranean, with the Sea of Galilee. It is the way by the sea of the Mediterranean Sea. So Capernaum ruins don't exist anymore. All right? So let's go inside the synagogue. I'll have a few more. Now, did you all see the arch-shaped rock at Peter's primacy? Yes? Did you see it? Like here, if you have two columns joined together, if you look from this side, and if you destroy these columns, you'll have a heart-shaped rock. So this was the style in the 4th century AD, and the Byzantine church that was built in Peter's primacy was during the Byzantine period, which means 4th century, 5th century AD. This was the style. If you cut these two columns, you have a heart-shaped rock. All right? Now, what is the difference between 4th century synagogue and 1st century synagogue? Synagogues after 70 and before 70. What is the difference between the two? Yes, but the shape of the synagogue. After 70 AD, because synagogues became alternative to the temple, which replaced Jerusalem. Okay? You remember that each synagogue should face Jerusalem, but this was only after 70 AD. Yesterday, we have visited Magdala and we've seen the 1st century synagogue. Everyone would be sitting around the rabbi, and only the rabbi, the teacher, will be. But the synagogues before 70 became holy sites, and it should face Jerusalem. Did you get that? And again, like in Chorazin, you have 3 doors, one for entrance, one for exit, and the middle one, no one should enter through it except for the first coming of the Messiah. Now, we said that the bigger the synagogue is, the bigger the city, right? If you look up there, can you see these are bases of columns? Can you see them?
2 floors?
Yes,
Yeah.
2-story building. One right of separation, for separation. Men on this level, women up on top. And even today, when we visit, we'll visit the Western Wall, the Wailing Wall, we will split. Men on one side, women on another side. This was built over 1st century synagogue, time of Jesus. When you go outside one more time, make sure to see under the synagogue here, you'll see the foundation of the 1st century synagogue, which is